Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for tonight's Next Steps Financial Aid and Scholarships with our Boise State Financial Aid representatives. My name is Danya Gadley, and I am an admission counselor here at Boise State, and I am based out of Northern Idaho. I am going to turn this over to our financial aid reps. In the meantime, if you have questions, feel free to type those in the chat, and we will get to those at the end of our session.
Hello, everyone, and thank you and welcome. And thank you for joining us today on this wonderful evening. My name is Jordan Creighton. I'm the Associate Director of Client Services within the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office here at Boise State University. And hopefully I'll be able to provide some information to you that will prepare you for your next steps of becoming a Bronco. I want to go to the next slide, please. So first off, here's just a little activity to think in your head is what is financial aid? Is it your FAFSA money? Anything that helps me pay for college? Is it winning the lottery? Is it grants, work study, loans, and scholarships? For those of you who answered grants, work study, loans, and scholarships, you are correct. Financial aid is made up of a lot of different types of aid. And our goal today is to really look at those different types of aid options and how you might be able to apply for them and apply them to your tuition and living expenses here at Boise State University. So first off, we have grants. Grants is free money. That is free money that is automatically awarded to you based off filling out the FAFSA application, which we will go over here soon. Work study is money that you earn while you go through school. Again, that is through the FAFSA, and we'll go into a little bit more depth here soon. Loans. So loans, of course, are money that you have to pay back. And then scholarships is free money that you have to apply for or you get based off a certain criteria. So why don't we go on to our next slide now, and we'll talk about how to apply for financial aid. So the first thing that you want to do, and hopefully most of you have done already, is submit all of your admission materials by the appropriate deadlines. So for non-residents, to maximize your financial aid, the deadline for our scholarships was December 15th. That included your admissions application and your transcripts. And then for your Idaho residents, it is February 15th. Again, that's your admissions application as well as your final transcripts. So transcripts that you have completed so far. So after you have applied to Boise State, the next thing you want to do is to complete the Boise State Scholarship application. You can find this application at scholarships.boisestate.edu. This application I recommend doing as soon as possible. What it will do is it will provide information about what scholarships you might be eligible for that may have additional information. Many of our scholarships have essays or reference letters that are required to receive the scholarship. So you want to make sure you do your scholarships soon so that you have time to complete the additional steps for some of the scholarships that you might be eligible for. And that is part of completing your academic department scholarship application that's built into the Boise State Scholarship application at the end. Next up, if you are a resident of the state of Idaho, you want to make sure you complete the state of Idaho scholarships. The primary scholarship that most students apply for is the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship. The Idaho Opportunity Scholarship is up to $3,500 a year. Now, this is separate than the Apply Idaho application for admission. So please make sure that you do both applications, the admissions application as well as the scholarship application. We worked with so many students last year who thought that it was all one application, and they missed out on $3,500 from the state of Idaho. This scholarship is a need-based scholarship, but we recommend all students to apply for it. And then next is submitting that FAFSA application. The FAFSA is due by February 15th, and we'll go into a few more details about that here in a minute. A lot of people ask, is this required? No, it is not required. It's just highly recommended. I highly recommend it because sometimes if you don't qualify for free money through the application, you might qualify for other need-based aid or need-based scholarships that you may not otherwise know that you qualify for. And the only way that we're able to determine that is based off filling out that application. Also, you never know if you're going to have an emergency. So by having that application filled out, you always have a backup plan for additional funding. And then lastly is to complete any other Boise State scholarship applications that you might see or private scholarship applications. And we'll talk a little bit more about private scholarships here soon. So let's talk about the FAFSA. So the FAFSA, you can apply for at studentaid.gov. The priority deadline for completing the FAFSA application is February 15th. If you complete it later, you'll still qualify for aid, but there are some types of aid that you do have to complete that application by February 15th for priority funding. By filling out this application, this is where you are going to be able to determine whether you are eligible for Pell Grant and also student loans. So through the FAFSA application, there are primarily two types of student loans that students take out. They are called subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized loans do not accrue interest while a student is going through school, and an unsubsidized loan does accrue interest while going through school. As a first-year student, so freshman coming in, you will receive up to $5,500 of loans, and it could be a combination of subsidized and unsubsidized based off that financial need. In addition to that, there are a couple other loan or options that are available. One is called the Parent Plus loan. So if a parent is interested in taking out a loan on behalf of their student, the student still needs to complete the FAFSA application. Who's eligible to complete the FAFSA application? It is any U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. If parents are not U.S. citizens, that is okay. They can still complete the application, and you can contact an admissions counselor or a financial aid office, and we can help you complete that application. The Parent Plus loan is the one advantage of taking out that type of loan for your student is you are able to defer payments while the student is in school, but it will accrue interest during that time. Student loans do not have to make payments while you are in school unless you drop below 6 credits or stop attending. So the FAFSA application, we recommend everyone to do. If you complete the FAFSA application, many students are asked for additional information. This is called verification. Verification is essentially a financial aid's office doing an audit to ensure that we are providing students with the correct amount of aid. Not all students get selected for verification. Anywhere from 25 to 30% of students will get selected. And so if you have to turn in additional documents, it's important to pay attention to your Boise State email. It's likely we have already been communicating with you, or maybe you have already turned in documents if you're ahead of the game about information that we need. The most common documents that we need is just verification of household size and a copy of your taxes. So when you log into the FAFSA, there's a couple different applications you can do. Right now, what is open is the 2022-2023 FAFSA and the 2023-2024 FAFSA. If you are planning on starting Boise State in the fall, you're going to complete the 2023-2024 FAFSA application. If you are thinking about starting Boise State in the summer, guess what? You have 2 FAFSA applications that you need to complete. The 2022-2023 and 2023-2024 application. So it doesn't take long to do. I recommend using the IRS retrieval tool if you are eligible to do so. That will prevent and reduce the amount of additional information that you might have to put on your FAFSA. If you have specific questions about your FAFSA application, I recommend reaching out to the financial aid office tomorrow or later next week, and we can help walk you through that FAFSA application. So what does an award letter look like once you come to Boise State? So looking at this, if you are a new student coming in, if you have completed your admissions application, you have filed a FAFSA, it is very likely that you're going to receive your financial aid award letter within the next few days. So this presentation is right in line when you can actually get a sneak peek of what your costs might look like. So again, some of these are estimated. So when we look at costs for Boise State, we want to try to help give you the whole picture of what it's going to look like. There's indirect costs and direct costs. Direct costs are ones that are going to be required for the student automatically. That is what's going to be your base tuition and mandatory fees. For students, if you have a look, for resident students, you're looking at $8,364 for tuition. And for non-resident students, it's $25,702. This amount is per year. So half is due for fall semester and then half is due for spring semester. Many of the other costs are going to be some of those indirect costs. That's going to be your room and board, your transportation expenses, your books, what types of books and supplies you might want. And then of course, there's the miscellaneous expenses such as regular doctor's appointments that you might have as a student. So when you look at room and board is going to be relatively the same for resident and non-resident students. It can change depending on what type of housing situation that you choose to join at Boise State, if you choose to live on campus or off campus. The costs are going to be relatively the same. Transportation expenses, we factor in costs that resident students might have and non-resident students might have. So for our resident students, we look at the average cost that it might take to drive home, depending on where in the state you might be joining us from. And for non-resident students, we're going to estimate an average number of 3 flights. So we try to use some of that information to fully prepare you for any cost that is associated with college. So when you get your award letter tomorrow, it's going to look very similar to this. And I will say award letters will only be going out to students who have completed all processes and all verification items if you did get selected for verification. So that first thing that we try to show you is what is looking at the costs. So this example is of a resident student. And so the only thing that really will significantly change is going to be that tuition and fees. Below that, you're going to see scholarships and grants. So this is the free money. So this is the money that will go directly towards your tuition right away and help pay off those expenses. And then let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. And so going through here towards the bottom, you're going to see loans and work study. So scholarships and grants are going to be automatically accepted for you. Scholarships, you will need to go in and accept those scholarships. And we'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. Loans, you do have to accept. We will not accept a loan on behalf of a student. Work study will also be awarded to you. How to get work study? You have to mark yes on the FAFSA application and be need-based. Not every student will get work study. There is not enough work study to go around for every student. So if you get work study, it will be your responsibility to find a job on campus. You can go to Handshake. Normally they start posting in the summer and start looking for jobs that might be available. If you are not awarded work study right away and you are interested in it, we do have a wait list that we actively move students into work study on. So just because you don't get awarded it right away doesn't mean that you won't be eligible for it. For student loans, there are a couple additional steps that students do have to complete to receive their student loans. So if you do decide to accept a loan, please make sure you're watching your Bronco mail for that additional information. You will need to complete entrance counseling and sign a master promissory note. Both of those items can be found at studentaid.gov. If you're still thinking about it and not sure, you do not have to accept any of your loans right away. We just recommend, if you are planning on accepting loans, to accept those loans by August 1st. That will ensure that you have all the items completed and ready to go for that fall semester. If you are thinking about a Parent Plus loan, or if your parents are thinking about a Parent Plus loan for you, that is not going to show up on your estimated award. That is a step additional that parents will need to take out that loan for the student. We recommend parents start applying for the Parent Plus loan May 1st. This ensures that their credit check stays valid for the school year. In order to apply for the Parent Plus loan, they will go to studentaid.gov. So now, if you want to go ahead and jump to the next slide, please. All right, so what you're going to do now, You are going to watch a short video that shows you how to accept your aid. So this will be a great preview of what many of you will hopefully see within the next couple of days.
Hi, my name is Melina, and in this video I will outline how you can accept or decline your financial aid.
To log into your Student Center, go to My Boise State, and you'll just want to enter your username and password. Once you're logged in, then you'll want to click on the Student View button. And on the right, under Services, you'll see Student Center. This will open a new tab. If this does not open a new tab, all you'll need to do is just click on the log symbol right next to the URL, Site Settings, scroll down to Pop-ups and Redirects, and make sure it's on Allow. Then click on the Financial Aid tile, select on the appropriate year, and accept and decline awards. So this page will show you everything you were awarded, whether it was a loan, grant, work study, or scholarship. Keep in mind, all loans, work study, and most scholarship must be accepted in your Student Center. Grants are automatically accepted on your behalf. Most aid is offered for the full academic year, but split between fall and spring, and to accept the amount you need for both semesters. Each individual award has a link providing information about that specific award. And next to each individual award, there's a column for accepting and a column for declining, where you can check off the aid that you want to accept or decline. If you would like to accept all of your aid as it is, then click on the Accept All box. If you would like to change the amount that you were awarded to a lower amount, you can. Click on the box, then enter the new total amount and click Update Totals. If you're not sure about accepting or declining awards, such as a subsidized or unsubsidized student loan, you can delay your decision by not checking any box. If you decide later that you want some or all of the loan, return to this screen to accept. But we do advise you to accept your aid as soon as possible. By doing this, you can avoid delays. Once you're ready to accept, click the Submit button. Click Yes. Boise State has some resources that you can use to borrow responsibly and to accept only what you need. Check out our website for more information. Feel free to call, email, or stop by our offices if you have any questions. See you in the next video, Broncos.
So there's one very important thing about that video that I want to emphasize that confuses a lot of people, is that aid is for the full year. And only half of it is applied towards the fall semester, and then the other half is applied for the spring semester. So when you are looking at the total aid that you have, make sure you're using that calculation in budgeting for college. So just a quick review of that video, because I know Melina can go a little fast sometimes, is how do I review my aid? A, go on a trip. B, log into my Student Center at my.boisestate.edu. C, call my grandma. D, use the Bottom Line Estimator. While there could be a couple options that some students might choose to use, the best option here is logging into your Student Center at my.boisestate.edu. This is where you're going to see all the most up-to-date information related to your financial aid award. So let's talk about some other funding options and how you might go about applying for those. Let's go to our next slide. So we have some gap funding or just other funding options. And so many people are interested in learning more about those. So of course, there's always private scholarships. Private scholarships are scholarships that students seek out on their own and then notify private donors or organizations that they are going to Boise State. If you're an Idaho resident, there's a couple major ones that I highly recommend looking at. One is going to be Idaho Community Foundations, and the other, the Lightfoot Foundation. You can find links to both of those scholarship organizations on our website off the main page under private scholarships. There's also the State of Idaho scholarships. I mentioned before about the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship. If you're an Idaho resident, please apply for this scholarship. This scholarship helps significantly paying towards tuition for Boise State University. There are some other scholarships that you may or may not be eligible for through the State Board of Education as well. So again, you can find a link to that on our website, or you can go to the Idaho State Board of Education website itself and look at the other scholarships that might be available. Boise State offers several different funding options for students based off their admissions application. those scholarships are going to show up on your financial aid award. Some of you may see a President's Award, a Dean's Award, a Treasurer Award, and some of you may see the WUI. Some of you may not know what award to look for, or you may be thinking, where's my WUI? The WUI at Boise State is a 3.9 GPA. And so if you do not have a 3.9 GPA, it is likely that you may have qualified for some of our other non-resident awards. If you have questions about that specifically, we're happy to touch base with you. Those awards are, you do not receive other non-resident awards plus the WUI, it's one or the other. Again, there's the Parent Plus loan. Parents can choose to take out how much they want for that Parent Plus loan. They can choose to take out just enough to help cover tuition expenses, or they can take out enough loans to help cover living expenses for their students. So next year, we're looking at, I'm going to say for our non-resident students, we are looking at a cost of attendance close to $50,000. This is roughly the cost that you're going to see for those transportation expenses, housing, tuition, all of the above. So if a parent wants, they can choose to take out for that full amount. We will budget students within a cost of attendance, and we can provide them financial aid and a combination of all these different types of aid up to the amount of cost of attendance. Resident students, you're going to see roughly $25,000 to $30,000 for your cost of attendance, depending on your living situation. There are also private loans. Private loans are alternative loans, are loans that you would get from a private lender, such as a bank or a credit union. This is a loan that a parent can take out for the student, or the student can take out for themselves. Interest rates vary pretty significantly. It's important to do your research on the types of loans through the lenders and find one that meets your values. We do have a private search tool on our website where you can search some lenders that we are familiar with. We generally recommend students start with their main lending company, bank, or credit union that is most familiar with their credit. There's also consortium agreements. So a consortium agreement is primarily used for students within the state of Idaho. What a consortium allows, it allows students to take classes at multiple universities at the same time and to receive full financial aid at a single university to help cover their expenses. It doesn't guarantee they covers their expenses, but it allows them to be a full-time student. So for example, let's say a student has 3 classes that they want to take at Boise State, but there is a class that they are really interested in taking at CWI. If that class is a, let's say, basic 3 credit class, and we have the additional 9 credits that they're taking from Boise State can actually provide them funding for a full-time student, and then the student can use that additional funding to go back and help pay for their expenses. It doesn't happen automatically. Loans for students have to just be in 6 credits for students to receive student loans. For grants, they tend to vary. There's oftentimes a full-time rate, a 3/4 time, and part-time. This is one area that often confuses students. So when you're ready to enroll in courses at Boise State, if you receive any of Boise State's automatic scholarships or Pell Grant, we recommend being a full-time student. Full-time for financial aid is 12 credits. So please check your enrollment and check it way before August comes around to make sure that you are full-time. If you are waitlisted for a course, we will not consider that part of your enrollment until you're enrolled into that course. We'll go on to the next slide. And so with that, that is a lot of the basics for financial aid. There is a lot that happens with financial aid, and there are a lot of situations that impact students individually. And so we wanted to make sure that we offer enough time for questions for students and parents about financial aid during the session. I know one big question that I saw early on that was asked to be repeated was the cost of tuition. So first thing is for a resident student, it's $8,364. And for a non-resident student, it's $25,702. And so now I'm going to go through some other questions which were asked throughout our time today. So one question that we got asked, actually, I'll go ahead and let Danya take it from here.
Thanks, Jordan. I was just going with it. Looks like, Jordan, our first question is, how can I set up a one-on-one appointment with a financial aid counselor?
Yeah, so financial aid counselors are always available. So we just recommend calling the general financial aid line and we can get you connected with a counselor. It is very likely that whoever answers the phone can answer your questions. If you have a very unique situation that is impacting your financial aid, for example, maybe your current situation is not representative of what your FAFSA information says, feel free to call the financial aid office and we can get you set up for a one-on-one appointment. But 99% of the time, just by calling our office, we can get those questions answered for you. And a lot of times your admissions counselors will also be able to answer their questions because they are very knowledgeable about financial aid.
Awesome. So if the general scholarship application, do I have to apply individually for each scholarship on the Boise State scholarship application, or can I just send in one application that sends it to multiple scholarships at once?
It's kind of a combination of both. So you're going to fill out the general scholarship application. And once you complete that, if there are additional scholarships that require additional steps, those ones will show up for you. Otherwise, it's just one application and no additional steps that are needed. So the ones that require additional steps are ones that might require an essay or a recommendation letter. For recommendation letters, most of the time, your reference will actually log in and fill out the recommendation letter through the scholarship application.
Okay, we have quite a few FAFSA specific questions. So we realized we filled out the FAFSA incorrectly. We submitted the correction during the call. Will this impact our award letter or enrollment eligibility?
It depends on how bad the correction was and where it lied. But it could be, we actually might flag you being like, oh, you changed your information. So now we want to select you for that verification process. Or depending on the situation, it's not going to have any impact at all. Feel free to call our office tomorrow and we can help kind of guide you of what that might look like. If you just filled it out today, though, we probably won't be able to see your updated application until next week. So if you did your FAFSA application correctly the first time, if you receive a financial aid award letter tomorrow, and then your information changes significantly, it will update all throughout the semester based on additional information the financial aid office receives.
Okay, when do we find out what we are going to receive through FAFSA?
If you have completed everything, this is a little sneak preview that's not publicly known yet, but you will most likely find out tomorrow if everything goes as planned, if not early next week for freshman students. If you are a transfer student, you're most likely looking at March, just because there's some additional data and information that takes for us to be able to award you. But those award letters are getting ready to be available. And so watch your email, as that will be the notification that you have one available.
Do high school seniors have to meet the February 15th deadline for the FAFSA?
I highly recommend it. You will still qualify for basic grants and basic loans if you file your FAFSA after February 15th. But you want to do it by February 15th for a couple of reasons. One is the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship deadline is March 1st, I believe. And so you want to make sure you have that done in order to complete that application. And there's a couple other grants, such as there's a grant called SEOG that only a certain number of students get. And that's based off that filing deadline, because that's just a little bit of extra money the Department of Education provides to us to give to students. And so not every student gets it. It's kind of almost like a first come, first serve based off who's eligible for it kind of grant. And so that one tends to be awarded later on in the year. And so in general, most of these FAFSA questions are going to be, it depends, but always try to meet the deadlines.
Jordan, how do we know if we're eligible for a Pell Grant?
If you completed the FAFSA application and there wasn't any significant errors, it likely told you at the very end. If not, you will find out when you receive your award letter. You have to have a lower EFC in order to qualify for a Pell Grant. The Pell chart for next year has not been released yet from the Department of Education, but roughly you will look at needing to have an EFC of 6,000 or lower. An EFC is the estimated family contribution. It's a magic number the FAFSA spits out. It doesn't really mean anything, but it helps us define how much financial aid that you're eligible for.
Okay, here we are. What if you don't qualify for any help through the FAFSA and your parents are not going to help with costs? Can you get a loan higher than the $5,500?
This is another, it depends. In a lot of cases, the answer is going to be no. But in some cases, yes, there are different appeals processes that we can go through just depending on the unique situation. But in most cases, you're going to have to look at some of those alternative funding sources to help pay for school. Unfortunately, the FAFSA, you have to include your parent information on there until you're 24 or married or have a kid. And so that the loan amount that you're going to get is what you're going to be eligible for unless you change to an independent student. One thing I do like to tell people, it doesn't matter whether your parents claim you on your taxes or not. We look at each person's income individually. And so there's really no advantage or disadvantage on the taxes of who claims to because of the standard dependency rules that are in place from the Department of Education.
What if your parents have not filed taxes in the past 2 years?
If your parents have not filed taxes, it depends on how much income they made and what their income looked like. If they are required to file taxes based off their income, we may ask them to file their taxes, and that's not a fun conversation to have. So if you are in a situation that's like that, that's definitely a call the financial aid office question so we can help you, because if they're required to file their taxes based off the IRS rules, they better do that now.
Can both parents fill out the Parent Plus loan or just one?
Both technically can. It is easiest if it's the same parent that is on the FAFSA, but as long as it is a biological parent, then we can make it work. There just might be some extra hurdles that you have to go through. But one thing I do recommend, because sometimes we see parents, like if a parent is divorced or separated, one parent might want to do 1 year and the next parent might want to do the other. We recommend doing full years and not by semester. You can do by semester, but it just makes things really tricky. So if you're able to work it out to do it year by year, it just goes a lot smoother for the financial aid process for the student.
When I submit my FAFSA application, do we have to designate Boise State? If so, how do I send it in after I already submitted it to other schools?
You can absolutely add Boise State. You can actually add as many schools as you want. The first time you complete your FAFSA, you can add up to 10 schools, but you can go back in and add additional schools after the fact.
I accidentally submitted the 2022-23 FAFSA and not the 23-24. Does that impact the award?
It will right now because you won't get an award because it's not for next year. So just go back in and complete the 23-24 FAFSA. It won't be a big deal.
Here's a good one. Jordan, can you explain expected family contribution and what it means on the FAFSA award?
Oh goodness, this is a loaded question. And this is why I laugh, because this name expected family contribution is going away this year. So this will be the last time you hear us talking about it. Basically, it's an artificial number that is used to determine your need eligibility. So it takes a certain percentage of a whole bunch of different things, of parents' income, students' income, depending on how much they make and how many people in the household. And then we use that to determine how much aid that you're eligible for. So that is actually a very important thing that I should let everyone know about, is the next year, the FAFSA is going to change a lot. So each year that you're in school, you need to complete a FAFSA application, and it opens October 1st of every single year. Next year, the FAFSA is going to be a lot shorter. So any of you who had a lot of hurdles completing the FAFSA this year, next year it's going to be a lot easier. And so it's going to be very different when you go into it. So don't be shocked when that comes around in October. And instead of an expected family contribution, they're changing the name to a student aid index, because that's really what that is. It's an index that we use to determine your financial aid eligibility.
If a parent is not working due to layoff, how is FAFSA affected?
Yeah, it could be impacted pretty significantly. So we have a process called special conditions. The special conditions process is for any student who might be in a unique situation. It could be a parent has passed away, someone has laid off, just significant impact to the student and their ability to pay for school. And so that process opens up in May for the next school year. Generally, if a parent is laid off, they have to be laid off for at least 8 weeks before we do that process, to see if they do get another job in that meantime. And so if that is that situation, reach out to us in May and we can help you through that process. What we will essentially do is we ask for all the documentation and we kind of estimate what your financial aid will look like for the next school year.
Do award letters look different, or awards, excuse me, look different if you're doing online classes only?
They could, because your tuition may be different based off the type of online classes, and you may not be eligible for some awards that are online only awards. But the types of FAFSA aid that you're eligible for will still be the same in terms of grants and loans.
Who receives award letters and where do we find it?
So all students who apply for, who are receiving federal aid will get an award letter. You can find that, you'll be able to find that in your My Boise State Student Center as soon as they are available. So if you applied for federal aid and everything's completed, you will likely see that go out tomorrow. If you did not apply for federal aid, but you qualified for one of our scholarships, you likely will find that directly in your My Boise State Student Center, but you probably won't receive an additional award letter. That may be changing, but that's what it is right now.
Will I also be able to see subsidized and unsubsidized loans in the financial aid tile tomorrow?
If all goes as planned, yes. So hopefully tomorrow will be that magic day for everyone. And it should show all the loans except the Parent Plus loan on there that you are eligible for. And remember that these things can change. So let's say you are a superstar student and you're getting all the local scholarships at your high school. Those may impact how much in the types of loans that you are eligible for over time, because subsidized loans are need-based. So if you get a whole bunch of outside scholarship, we might change some of those loans to unsubsidized loans, but you'll still get the same amount. It will just be up to your cost of attendance for whatever that is.
Do you need to submit your intent to enroll in order to receive an award letter?
You do not.
And another award letter question, when can students expect to get their award letter outlining their fees?
So the fees on your award letter will not be exact. Tuition will not post for students generally until July, and that's where you will see the specifics. So it's important to use that award letter to understand your non-resident and resident fees ahead of time so that you can budget appropriately, so you're not waiting until the last minute.
How do we know if we will get work study, and what's the timeline for this?
Work study will automatically show up on your financial aid award. What we do is if students who already have a work study job on campus, they get it first priority because they already have a job on campus and they have to be able to keep their job. And then it is awarded to the new students. So this process tends to happen a little bit later, and we will automatically notify you. Normally, you will apply for a work study job starting in the summer. If you do not get work study on your financial aid award, you can join the work study wait list. Most students get off the wait list as long as you meet the eligibility requirements for work study. It just may not be right away. Sometimes it goes into September a little bit. I will say that work study, though, people think it's additional money for a student. It is not additional money for a student because you get the money like a paycheck. It just goes on your financial aid award. So but many jobs require you to be work study eligible. One advantage of work study is a lot of that information is reported differently on your FAFSA, so it impacts you less. So that is one great advantage of having a work study job. And most work study jobs are on-campus jobs, and you can find them through the Career Center through their portal called Handshake.
Okay, the next question was in regards to getting paid, but I think we covered that, right? I already received an automatic scholarship. What other aid should I look into? What should I be prioritizing?
Well, you always want to prioritize the free stuff. I mean, that's going to be the stuff that you don't have to pay back. That's all the good money. So if you already have an automatic scholarship, of course, fill out the FAFSA application to get the automatic grants based off your financial eligibility if you qualify for them. And then the next step is really looking at those outside scholarships. So resident or non-resident, that's going to depend a little bit. But the best place to look for scholarships right now, I think, is your high school counselor. They're going to be the ones that are most familiar with local scholarships in your area. Many scholarships come from private organizations or community businesses. Check with the businesses that your parents might be affiliated with. Some of those spots are the best spots to look for scholarships.
Jordan, if I got the WUI, does that mean I cannot receive any other Boise State scholarships or just the automatic ones?
Just the automatic scholarships. You can absolutely receive other Boise State scholarships that are awarded through the Boise State scholarship application. All the admissions-based scholarships are awarded only at the time of an admission. Students cannot receive them after they've already started Boise State. So if you don't meet the GPA requirement for WUI, and then let's say after your first semester you do, you will not become eligible for the WUI.
If I am accepted into the nursing program, what happens to my WUI scholarship?
Let me double check. I say this because there's different requirements for different years, but I believe WUI is an acceptable award for an acceptable major for next year. Get my cheat sheet open here. Correct. If you have WUI, you are eligible for if you are a nursing student, you are eligible for the WUI. It's if you are radiological sciences or pre-radiological. If you are receiving some of the other non-resident awards, then nursing is not an approved major.
Perfect. Are there automatic scholarships for transfer students?
Yes, there are. And it depends on the number of credits that you are coming in with, but it's the same, essentially almost the same criteria for regular students. So we have resident and non-resident transfer awards.
When it comes time to pay for tuition per semester, will my WUI be automatically applied and taken off the total, or is it like a credit type of thing?
So what will happen is normally it's about a week before school starts, your financial aid will disperse to your student account. So whatever is left over from there, you are then responsible to pay. So your WUI will automatically get applied to your tuition, half for fall, and then we'll disperse the other half for spring. If you have enough funding to cover your on-campus housing, it will cover those costs as well. It will automatically pay them. And again, you would only be responsible for whatever is left over at that time.
Can I resubmit my transcript after graduation if my GPA were to rise for a different merit-based scholarship?
We will not automatically change your merit-based scholarship. It was based off the time of that initial deadline, but please submit those final transcripts just because you never know if additional scholarship opportunities might become available. And it's required for admissions.
All right, we have some residency questions. I already received a non-resident automatic scholarship, but we're moving to Boise in March. Can we switch to become a resident?
I'm going to refer you to the registrar's office. They have a great website dedicated to residency. The financial aid office is not the residency experts on campus, and there are multiple steps that you have to complete, but they have an amazing website of all the steps that you have to take. So I strongly recommend looking at that and seeing if any of the processes can start now, because it generally takes a full year to establish residency.
Can you tell me how I use my money in my parents' 529 account?
Yes, so that is all through our student financials office, or some people refer to it as student accounts. They are going to be the ones that help you with all of that. Generally, all you have to do is go onto the website and transfer the money to Boise State. It's normally a pretty simple process for students, but I recommend reaching out to student financials for the specifics. Because there are a couple 529 lenders that have some unique processes, but our student financials are great at helping people make sure that they can get their money to Boise State.
Outside of those automatic merit-based scholarships, when will we hear about the general scholarship awards?
We try to have all those awards awarded by May 1st, but really they can be awarded all throughout the summer. But May 1st is really what we try to do, because we do know that that is the priority decision deadline for a lot of students.
Are there any scholarships or loans that are based off of your senior year grades or include your senior year grades?
Most scholarships, that's what they're going to be looking at, what your cumulative GPA is, not just your senior year. It doesn't mean that there might not be any out there, but almost all the ones that I've come across, it's cumulative GPA.
We've been having a hard time of getting a hold of anyone on the phone. Can we set up an in-person appointment?
Oh, absolutely. We're always available. And if you've been having a hard time, shoot us an email. I'm hoping that there's not a technology glitch, because we definitely have been getting plenty of phone calls that have been coming through. And you can also use our callback feature if there is a long wait, and we can give you a call back. And normally that's within 15-20 minutes or so.
Can you tell us what percentage of Boise State students receive some sort of aid?
You know what? I don't know that number off the top of my head. If any admissions counselor knows that number off the top of their head, that would be great. But that is something that we can get back to you on if we need to.
If a parent's income significantly changes in the upcoming year, can FAFSA be calculated to adjust appropriately to reflect the current situation?
It can, and that's through that special conditions process that opens up in the summer. So around May is when that process will open. But I highly recommend just reaching out to the financial aid office, and we can actually run a simulation for you to see if it's worth going through it. Because sometimes, depending on other investments or other income that a family may have, going through that process isn't actually going to make a student eligible for any other aid. I am going to jump back up to the question above it that we missed about how to become an independent student. That process, we have a specialist in our office that works with students who might be in a unique situation. So this might be a situation where parents are incarcerated, parents have died, they have been determined homeless by their high school, approved for McKinney-Vento. Those are some of the most common ways that a student can become independent. And so if you are in a situation that might be similar to that, reach out to our office and we'll set up an individual appointment for you, because each of those situations is very unique, and depending on what type of situation that you're in, will guide you to the right documents. Generally, what we need is some sort of documentation, a letter, up to 3 letters, people who are familiar with the situation, and that's how we go it. If you are in contact with your parents in regular communication, you generally cannot become an independent student. It would have to be a determination where there's a reason why you are not able to be in regular contact with your parents, such as incarceration, homelessness, or safety concerns.
Where do private scholarships go? If I got one, what do I do to get it to Boise State?
Yeah, normally private educational scholarships, they are specific for education, and you just tell them that they wanted to send it to Boise State. And then what they do is they electronically transfer the money to Boise State, and then we put it on your financial aid award. What's really important about private scholarships is if this is something that you are interested in, make sure you do it early. After Boise State receives the money and puts the financial money on your account, we normally hold it for 10 days before we disperse it to the student. This is to ensure that you are actually going to continue to be a student, to prevent risk. And so if you are looking at a private scholarship, make sure you're applying for those early. I recommend as early as May 1 to start that process so it's ready to go when tuition's due.
When are tuition and housing payments due for the fall semester?
Generally, you're looking at the Friday before classes starts. It's when you want to have your payments completed by. They do have payment plans for tuition and housing, though, if that's something you are interested in. You do just need to have those set up ahead of time so you do not get a late fee.
Can you tell us what the requirements are for work study?
Work study is really just a need-based award and marking yes initially on your FAFSA application. So you can go back in and mark yes on the FAFSA, but it's really need-based. So depending on all your other types of aid, whether it's need-based or not, determines your work study eligibility.
As a transfer student, we won't receive our award letter until March. Is there anything additional that transfer students need to do or complete to get that information sooner?
Nope, there isn't anything additional. You are just being lumped in with the rest of the Boise State students. So that's a fairly normal timeline for students to receive the financial aid award. If you're really trying to figure out how much money that you're going to get to come to Boise State, feel free to call the financial aid office and we can kind of help estimate for you of what that might look like so you can help make that final decision if that's what you're waiting on.
Could you give us a list of important deadlines for scholarships and financial aid?
Absolutely. So the next big one is February 15th. That's going to be your resident admissions-based scholarship for the automatic scholarships. That's going to be the scholarship deadline, and that's going to be the FAFSA priority deadline. If you miss any of those deadlines, still complete all of them. Complete the scholarship application, the FAFSA. You just may be missing out on some funding by missing those dates, but it's not eliminating you necessarily from anything in general. If you're a non-resident student, you're really going to be looking at December 15th to have all of your information in. So if you are looking to go to school in the fall, all that information should already be in for you to get those automatic based scholarships. If you are coming at a different time of the year, I'm going to refer you to our scholarship website as we have all the dates depending on what time of year you might be joining us.
Okay. I heard you talk about how payments possibly don't need to be made if we are above a threshold of credits or something along that line. Can we revisit that?
You may, I'm not sure completely what you may be referring to, but it may have been in talking about consortium agreements, where a student takes a certain number of credits at one school and a certain number credits at another school, but they can get full-time financial aid from one school. That's what you may be referring to, but if you have a follow-up question, feel free to throw it in the Q&A and we will try to follow up with you.
As a student receiving the WUI, when is it 100% determined that I will receive WUI?
So if it's on your financial aid award, that's how you know that you received WUI, is determined based off the time of admissions. And then you just have to maintain the GPA requirement of a 3.0 and be a full-time student each semester in order to maintain your WUI. All of the admissions-based awards are based off unweighted GPAs.
Who do we contact to set up a payment plan?
Students can do that directly through their Boise State Student Center.
If I switch my major to a different major that is not rad tech before I start as a freshman, would I be able to still get the automatic scholarship?
You will not automatically be considered for that scholarship, but we recommend filling out, contacting the scholarships office to get an appeal form to see, to make sure your name's on the list in case any other additional funding becomes available. But the likelihood of that happening is very slim, so please don't get your hopes up.
When will we start seeing those scholarships applied to our accounts?
A lot of them should already be there. If you were notified through your admissions letter, it should already be on your financial aid award that you can see through your Boise State Student Center.
How does financial aid work if we want to study abroad for a semester?
Yes. So what's awesome is a lot of your financial aid can be used to study abroad. So when you get to that time, study abroad will actually assign you an advisor in the financial aid office to go through your financial aid award to determine which awards can and cannot be used to study abroad. That's one of the best advantages about financial aid, is having that ability. I will tell you this, all federal aid can be used to study abroad. So if you're looking at that educational experience, I highly recommend you take advantage of that. Each program's a little bit different. That's why I'm not going to go into some detail. Some you pay the programs directly, some Boise State pays the program. So each one is unique in nature of how the financial aid works and what is allowable for financial aid based on how they're set up. So typical financial aid response, it depends.
Awesome. I think that concludes our questions for the evening. Thank you everyone for spending this time with us. And we really hope that you were able to get your questions answered and you're ready to become a Bronco. Just want to remind you that you can always reach out to your admissions counselor or to financial aid directly for any other questions or follow-up questions that you may have. Thanks so much for coming.